Hi everyone, and welcome to the third episode of the Yarn Duchess podcast. My name is Amy Duke, and I am the Yarn Duchess. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone who subscribed and commented on last week's podcast. It was just really nice to read the comments and get to know some of you a little bit better. You shared some nice thoughts and where you were from, which is what I asked for, and even gave me a little bit more information about yourselves, which I kind of feel like I made a few new friends. Anyway, it was just nice chatting with you, and I'm looking forward to talking to more of you and meeting some of you hopefully someday. There were a number of people that subscribed but did not comment, so I have a total of 13 entries for my first ever 100 subscriber celebration giveaway. I'm going to wait until the end of the podcast to announce that winner. But if you can't wait, just zoom on to the end of the podcast just before this week's featured yarn shop video and get that out of the way, and then come back to the beginning and watch the rest of the podcast. Anyway, if you're returning viewer, you'll probably notice something a little bit different. I actually have my room, or me, the right way this time. No, I did not find that magic button that countered the mirroring effect of my previous two episodes, but I'd like to give a shout out to Bernadette of Coffee and Crafts podcast. Her last podcast, she talked about having the same issue with mirroring. And what she did was that she set up her camera where it was the back-facing camera and put a mirror on the other side so that she could see what was happening. And this is a nice little fix until I get maybe get a camcorder. I'm still trying to decide on that. But anyway, so it's a little bit awkward. I'm looking at the back of my camera, but I've got the mirror, so I might be doing this occasionally when I'm showing you a book or a yarn label or whatever up close to make sure that I actually am putting it in the right place. So anyway, let me see. I also have my show notes. Last time I had printed them up and I was such a nervous wreck, as I mentioned before, that I pretty much disregarded them. So I'm going to take a moment to check out my notes to make sure I don't leave anything out. I have a pretty full show this time. Last time I was only about 30 minutes. I thought I had so much more to talk about, and out of my nervousness I just kind of whizzed right through and found myself at 30 minutes, actually less than 30 minutes, at 32 when I added in the video at the end. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about, I have one finished object, which is what I'm wearing. It's kind of fallen all around and gotten weird while I was putting my stuff together for the show. But anyway, this is the Oatmeal shawl. It is another Craftsy kit. You know how I like my Craftsy kits. Anyway, let me back up a little bit, see if I can get this into now if I can adjust the camera so that don't knock it down. There we go. Okay. So anyway, this is the Oatmeal shawl. I'm going to go ahead and take it off and show it to you. This was a Craftsy kit, like I said, and it's a very simple lace shawl, and it is made out of 100% alpaca. Now, I have used commercial alpaca before, and I was not knowing that how soft alpaca could be. My husband and I actually owned alpaca for about 5 years, and we went through the shearings and the processing of the fiber, and so I know firsthand what really good quality alpaca feels like. And the commercial yarns that I had used in the past were not of that quality. This is very, very close, if not exactly the same quality as what I'm used to. It's very soft and very drapey, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful, simple shawl. And the colorway, I think I said, is an oatmeal shawl, but the colorway is oatmeal, which is how it probably got its name. But anyway, I gave this I gave this shawl to my mother-in-law for Christmas this past year, and she just loves it. And little story about this shawl. This shawl is what got me watching podcasts. I had mentioned before that YouTube University. I'd always gone to YouTube to find tutorials on how to do stitches and how to do cast-ons and cast-offs and different types of knitting techniques. And I didn't realize that there were podcasts out there until I started knitting this shawl. And the pattern instructions said to go to a YouTube link in order to see a tutorial on how to do the picot bind off. Now, I had done picot bind off on crochet, but never knitted. So I went to the tutorial and I watched it several times while I, worked on the picot. And after a while, I got into the rhythm of it and stopped watching the tutorial. So when it ended, I didn't, hit stop or anything. I have my YouTube apparently set to move on to the next video that's in a list. And the next video in the list turned out to be a Craftsy video featuring two women sitting in a room full of yarn with a table in front of them full of yarn. And they were both knitting and talking about knitting. And I thought, wow, this is pretty neat. And then they mentioned that their names, that they were the grocery girls. And I'm like, what do groceries have to do with knitting? And so I was a little intrigued. And after the video was over, I Googled grocery girls and sure enough found out they had a podcast on YouTube. Now at this time, they were only on podcast, I think 34 or 35. So being OCD that I am, I had to start with the very first one and I was hooked. I started watching, I watched them all, what do you call it, like marathon watching. I just watched them every day for like a week till I got caught up. And it was amazing. They made me laugh and I just think that if I ever met them, we could be best friends. But anyway, that's what got me hooked on the podcast, which got me looking for more. But I didn't have to really look because they were talking about the other podcasters that they enjoyed watching. And so, of course, I went and watched them. And, of course, I got turned on to some of the yarns that they are yarn enablers. So be careful if you haven't seen them. Just be careful. You haven't been warned. Anyway, so I finished this shawl and started watching podcasts, and now my my knitting queue has tripled in size, as well as my yarn stash. Speaking of yarn stashes, one of the podcasters they talked about was Amber Lindemann, the Yarn Hoarder on YouTube, and I saw her stash and I felt better about mine because I thought I had too much, but she has easily 10 times more than I do, which is fine. I mean, she's young and she's a prolific knitter and, more power to her. So anyway, so we talked about that and this finished object. I have two more finished objects. They're really the same finished object in that it's the same pattern. These are called Brindled by Woolly Wormhead. And this is made out of Shibui Pebble. And Shibui Pebble is a combination of silk, cashmere, and merino. And I really liked the weird striping. It's a lot of short rows, and this was one of my first short row attempts, and it was I think I made another one in blue, and you see I haven't even tucked in the ends, and I knitted these 2 years ago. But one of the things that bothered me about this project, let's see if I can hold it up here. Well, if you can see, there's a lot of short rows, and I did what I thought only knew at the time was the wrap and turn, and I didn't like the holes that they left. I thought, I haven't blocked these yet. Maybe they'll come out in blocking, but I'm actually thinking about taking them apart because I have since learned about the German short row, and it leaves a much cleaner fabric. So I think I might block one and see how that turns out, and then think about taking the other one apart and redoing it with German short rows. Anyway, this is like I said, this is the Brindled hat by Woolly Wormhead, and it's a free pattern on Ravelry. So set that aside. Next, I have works in progress, and want to also point out that I have project bags. I went and bought some project bags. These are all small ones. I pretty much, if a project gets bigger than what will fit in a bag this size, I usually just leave it at home, and I just, I put it in something like this. This is my Knit Picks bag that I got for free when I ordered a certain amount of product, and I like I'm working on my PhD projects half done. Yeah, and I really like this. I wish it had a double handle. I like the double handle better than the long single, but I do like the magnetic snap. It's just really nice. It closes up like that, and it just has a pocket on the inside, and I keep my needle, what do you call this thing? Oh, the needle gauge, and then my Kleenex. Of course, can't go anywhere without Kleenex. It's spring after all. So my first bag, I'm not going to show this one yet. My first bag has got a project I just cast on a couple days ago. This is a Sockhead hat. I think I had, that's one thing I did not put down in my notes was who did the Sockhead hat. I mean, everybody's doing the Sockhead hat, so you probably already know, but I will still put a notation in the description box below and possibly on the screen. But this is actually my 4th Sockhead hat since before Christmas. I knitted my 3 nephews a Sockhead hat, and I had knitted my son the Skyping beanie hat, which I showed in my first video. And he saw the Sockhead hats that I'd made for my nephews, and he said, wow, I really like these. Can I have one? So I said, I was kind of surprised. I didn't think he would like a slouchy hat, and these are very slouchy, but he liked it. So, so I asked him what colors he wanted, and of course he wanted blue and gray. He was one of those blue and gray people I talked about in my first video. But he said I'd also like to have some white and black. So I dyed up this for him. This is a one of a kind that I did just for him, and I really like it, so I may have to try to repeat this. It's got a little bit of pooling, but it kind of goes in a swirl, so I think he'll like it. Anyway, so that's the Sockhead hat for my son. And I'm trying to get this ready for him for his birthday, which is this Friday. So there's one work in progress. I also butchered the name of this sock. I didn't mean to say Hermione. I would say that in my head, but it's Hermione. It's the Hermione sock. I didn't get very far on this since the last time I showed this to you. I wasn't expecting the stripes that I'm getting with my hand spun. This is some hand spun that I think it's a BFL nylon from a bat that I had, some roving that I had ordered from an independent dyer. But anyway, I got all the way down to the partridge. I have partridge heel, and I was having a little difficulty understanding the directions, and I'm afraid that this is going to be a project where I'm going to have to attend a class at the YouTube University on how to do the I have partridge heel. But this one is still in progress. This is still sock number 1. but I'm getting there after I get the hat done. Hat first, because I have a deadline. I really like these colors. Oh, I meant to mention the bags. So I got these bags from, let me see if I wrote those down. No, I did not write them down. Shame on me. I thought I did. Let me look again. Well, okay, yeah. So this is By the Bay. By the Bay Yarn Company. It's an Etsy shop. And these are canvas bags. This is the small size. She has a medium and a large. And there are two pockets sewn on the inside. Yeah, two pockets. And then it's got a drawstring, but since these are brand new and the canvas is still a little stiff, it doesn't close all the way, but it'll eventually, I know, we'll get there with some use. And it's got a little handle there. And I just dropped my notes. Give me a second here. I'm going to go grab them. Okay, I did that without knocking down the camera. Good for me. Okay, then I also have, I also got one in purple, but the only thing in here right now is the extra ball of yarn for my pavement sweater that is now too big for this bag. And then another bag that I got, this is a zippered bag, and I just love the owls. Just look at the eyes on that guy. That's what got me. It's got a nice gold, it's a fall colors. It's called Owls in Autumn, and this is by Shadow Bear Works is the name of the Etsy shop. And in here I have my, and I'm going to say it correctly this time. The last time I couldn't believe it. I have been knitting with this yarn for the last 6 or 7 years, and I've been calling it Zauberball. I don't know. There's another B in there. There's a B in the middle of it. It's Zauberball. So anyway, sorry about that. You probably caught that if you knit with this, but it's Zauberball. Zauberboll. Anyway, so this was the sock that I had shown you last time. I was about this far down, I think. And I tried this on and it fits me, so I'm really happy about that. Once again, this is the basic rib sock with the heel and gusset and then the cinched toe. And then I am working on sock number 2. So that's coming along pretty nicely. They don't, once again, doesn't match, but the colors are all, this kind of repeats a little bit. I was surprised to see that because I didn't get that repeat in the socks that I gave to my husband. So yeah, that's interesting to see. So still happy with these though. I got a lot more colors to go. This is, you know, the reds and blues and greens and yellows. A lot more yellow coming up. So that did not show up in this first sock as much. You see that? Anyway, okay. Enough of that. All right. Works in progress. Am I still on works in progress? Oh yeah, my sweater. So yes, I am still in works in progress. So I'm really enjoying this pavement sweater. I am made quite a bit of progress. I think I would have been done with the body if I had not started my son's hat. But anyway, I have done some dyeing this week, and long story short, I'm trying to achieve, all right, it's not going to be a short story. So I started dyeing yarn for a lot of reasons, but one of them was, that always been in the back of my mind, is that whenever I wanted to work on a project, I couldn't find the yarn that I wanted, in the color that I wanted, in the quantities that I needed to make my project. It was always very frustrating for me. So I wanted to make the flax light sweater for my husband. And he wanted charger colors. He's originally from San Diego. He's been a Charger fan since he was 9 years old, and that has not wavered over the years. So he asked me if I would make him Charger colors. So I needed to come up with the proper navy blue, the proper throwback colors in the old Charger blue, and then trying to get the gold. Well, the main thing he wanted is that most of the yarn bases, well, all the yarn bases that are wool, are kind of an ecru color, and he wanted the white. He didn't think the ecru looked very good with the rest of the colors, and so I was trying to find a way to make white, and I had contacted some indie dyers that I knew had achieved white and asked them, well, how do you do this? And I even threw it, the question out to a Facebook page of indie dyers, and I got crickets. I don't know if they just didn't want to share this big secret, or they didn't know themselves. And but anyway, I went to Reddit and I found just one little blurb about someone said to use blue, just the tiniest bit of blue to offset the yellow, and sure enough, it worked. So I was so thrilled when I found that. I started trying to dye his Charger colors, and I ended up having some problems with the blues bleeding into the yellows and things like that. And I got some wonderful happy accidents, and I also made some mistakes in mixing my golds, and so I got this gorgeous color that is a one of a kind, and I'm going to keep it for myself just because when my friends walked in the door, I had tons of skeins of yarn dyeing, but this was the one they were like, ooh, that's beautiful. So it's sorry, it's mine. I should not even shown it to you, sorry. But anyway, where was I? I was talking about, oh yeah. So on that day that I was dyeing all of these colors, I got a little frustrated towards the end with the mistakes, and I said, oh, that's right, Evan wanted a hat with blue and gray and white and black, and so I threw that one skein in there, and it came out just perfect. So anyway, sorry I got off on a tangent there, but back to this one. This was also a happy accident on dyeing. This was my on Golden Pond colorway, but I said if I hadn't successfully dyed Evan's yarn in time to start his hat in time for his birthday this Friday, I would have been done with the body of the sweater. So I am just now, I think this is the front. I'm working on the front short rows where it kind of has a shaping, the curved shaping in the front. So I'm doing that. I just finished up the front, and I'm going to be going to the back to work on the short rows back there. And then once I do that, I think there's a couple of inches of garter stitch, and then I'll start, I'll pick up the sleeves. So hopefully we'll have this done sometime before the next podcast. So those are all my works in progress. Actually, I have to put this back in the bag. My yarn is still in there. Okay, so we've gone through my bags and the whips, and oh, I did not pull those out, but I think they're around here somewhere. Well, I'm not going to be able to show these because I have misplaced them already. I was going to show you. I'm starting my first ever cowl knit along. It's with a Facebook page called Dying to Knit, and so it's a group of indie dyers, and we dye up our own yarn and knit things with it. So this is we're going to be doing the Comfort Fade Cardi. Now of course her name escapes me. I'm not as well prepared as I thought I was today, but you've probably seen her. She did the Find Your Fade shawl and the Find Your Fade sweater, and this is her cardigan. But I'll put her name up in the description box and below, since I totally spaced out on that. So anyway, so that's what I'm going to be doing. And I was supposed to show my yarns for that project, and I don't know where I left them. I had them in my hand when I was setting up for this, and yeah, I can't find them now. So anyway, so the other thing I was going to show was future projects. I did a little bit of shopping on Etsy again, and where did I put those things? Okay, there they are, right in front of my face. All right, so one of the things that I'm kind of excited and a little scared to work on because it's different. One thing you probably noticed that I've been saying is that this is my first this, my first that. And having been knitting for over 50 years, that seems kind of a strange thing to say, but you know, raising 3 kids and working 2 jobs doesn't leave a whole lot of time for knitting over the years. And so the few hours that I had in the evening after the kids were in bed was just mindless knitting. And that's why I have so many unfinished projects that are just sitting in drawers and boxes, because all I had time for really was to knit, sewing arm sleeves onto sweaters and weaving in ends and blocking. And who's got time for that? So now I have time for that, now that I'm an empty nester. But yeah, before the knitting was just strictly to relieve stress. So I'm really enjoying the opportunity to learn new things, try new techniques, play with color, and do all the finishing stuff, and having something to wear after I'm done. So anyway, so one of my first projects that I'm excited to get started on after I get these other projects out of the way is this. It's called the Fox Paws scarf, and this one is also a kit from Craftsy, and these are the colors that I have for this scarf. So I think they'll be nice. So there's a few extra colors of these. I just wanted to show the colors that the scarf was made out of. And so anyway, this scarf is by Xandy Peters, Xandy Peters. So anyway, that's the next on my list. And then my next project after that, this one I'm really kind of, I wasn't expecting this. This was kind of a surprise. This is another Craftsy kit. And if you see the picture, you understand what I'm talking about. It's called the Harmonize Shawl. And if you see how I don't know if you can see that or not, but how the colors are just kind of like, it looks like there's a lot of, not blending, what's the word I'm looking for? Color work, where I've used like 2 different colors or 3 different colors of yarn and to make these patterns. But this is the yarn. It's just one skein and the colors change, and I'm just really going to be interested to see how this becomes this. Stay tuned. Find out with me. I will take you along on the journey. So, next, we'll talk about this week's yarn shop. Let me see here. Oh yeah, this week I did go to a yarn shop. I couldn't remember the name of it last time, but the yarn shop is called You and Me, E-W-E and Me. And it's on Garden of the Gods Road, leading to Garden of the Gods. I had mentioned that I would go to Garden of the Gods after leaving the shop, but that day was overcast and cloudy and kind of windy. So visiting the shop was fine, but going to the Garden of the Gods would have been fine too, except the pictures wouldn't have come out very good. The rocks, if you've ever been to Sedona or seen pictures of Sedona, Garden of the Gods is very similar to that, and it just looks its best when the sun is out. I had taken some photos a couple weeks earlier when my brother-in-law was in town, and it didn't look very impressive. None of the pictures really came out because it was one of those breezy overcast days. And so I just knew it wasn't going to look you wouldn't get the full benefit of the pictures if I had taken it that day. But I have another shop that I want to go visit in, of course, blanks again. I'll come back to it, but it's up in the mountains a little bit further. Yeah, why am I drawing a blank? Anyway, I did that last week with you and me, so I guess you shouldn't be surprised. But anyway, I'll be going there on a day when it's a little bit nicer, and maybe even pass through Manitou on my way to that yarn shop, which I don't know the name of, and it's a new yarn shop that opened up just last year. I had had an opportunity to find it during the yarn crawl last year, so and I think at the time she was in this little tiny one-room cabin, and she was saying that she was getting ready to move into a larger spot in a shopping mall. So I haven't been to the new shop, so I'm looking forward to visiting and seeing what she's got. So, but this week, this last week, I went to You and Me, and Debbie and Gary are the shop owners, and just a wonderful couple. Gary knits and does beautiful work. Some of his handiwork is hanging around the shop, and Debbie was just a delight to talk to. We were talking about sock knitting. She's really into sweaters, and she just was kind of perplexed that so many people were knitting socks, and she just wasn't sure she wanted to get into socks. But I think she's gonna knit some socks just because everybody else is. But one of the things that she had at her shop, and it's a beautiful shop, by the way, lots of really nice yarn. She doesn't carry fiber for spinners, so if you're looking for that will not be there. But she has a huge table for group knitting, and she has classes and things like that. But on the table that I just referred to, she had a whole basket of Zauber balls, and so I pulled out almost all of them, and then I started putting some back, and these were the three that I couldn't put back. So I think I'm going to knit a pair of socks for my son, a pair of socks for my daughter, although she probably liked these better, but I like them, so I don't know. We'll see. I haven't decided yet, but I bought these colors, and I'm really looking forward to knitting some more socks with those. And then another thing that she had, I'm not normally going to be showing you my acquisitions. I just don't think that that's something that you really care to see what somebody else has bought. But I wanted to share these because I thought that they were, well, you know about my story about the Zauber balls, but this one, just that are a little bit different and unique lately, is people carrying sock blanks, and I have not yet knitted from a sock blank, but I just love these colors. These are my colors. So anyway, I love the fall muted colors, and especially these greens and golds, and then a little spot of rust. So yeah, this is going to be socks for me. So maybe I will let my daughter have those green Zauber ball socks, but I just saw this and said I gotta have it. So anyway, that's even prettier unfolded than it was all wrapped up. So anyway, that's my acquisitions from You and Me. Now I did buy yarn from the last store that I went to, Colorful Yarns in Centennial, and I didn't buy as much there. I mean, that's crazy, right? You saw how big that store was and how much yarn they had. But I was specifically looking for sock yarn in BFL nylon, and I found, oh, that's even prettier on camera than it is, and well, I guess because the light's hitting it. But yeah, once again, fall colors. I'm a sucker for these colors. And this is Strong Sheep Sock Weight, the hardiest. Blueface 75, Blueface Leicester 25 nylon. And it's by Independence Street. And oh, I should have mentioned too, the sock blank was Dragon Fairy Works. And this is a merino wool nylon 80/20 one of a kind. So really happy about that. Anyway, so those are my acquisitions from my 2 yarn shop visits. I can see that I'm going to be getting into some trouble here doing these yarn shops visits so I can share them with you, but I'm willing to throw myself on that grenade for you. Anyway, oh, speaking of the yarn shop visits, my mother-in-law was concerned. She said, she goes, why are you showing these yarn shops? Are they paying you to market their shops? I said, I'm not marketing their shops, and no, they're not paying me. In fact, I don't even tell them that I'm there. I'm kind of, you know, ninja filming while I'm there, because I just want to share these shops with you, because I know that, I don't know if any of you travel or ever will travel, but I know that there are times when I've gone on a trip to a town and gone, I wonder if there's a decent yarn shop in town. Well, you know, since I started watching these podcasts, I'm finding, you know, that some people are sharing their local yarn shop. And I think, and I say, I make a mental note to myself, the next time I'm there, that's where I'm going. So I'm just, it's a service to my fellow knitters to let you know what's out there if you should ever come out this way to Colorado. So I said this, the first shop was up in Centennial and near the Denver metro area. The one that I just went to is not very far from me. It's only about 10 miles in Colorado Springs. So those 2 shops there. Next week, I'm going to be in, this weekend actually, my husband and I and my daughter are driving down to Durango, which is a beautiful old former mining town in the southwest corner of the state. It's about an hour north of Albuquerque, New Mexico. It's about a 6.5-hour drive, and we're going there for a very sad reason, and I'm not going to dance around it. I'll just tell you that I'm a grieving mother. This trip is to recognize the 1-year anniversary of my youngest son's death. He was a student at Fort Lewis College there for the last 5 years, and last spring, 2 days after his 23rd birthday, he was struck and killed while walking on the sidewalk on his way to work. So on the 18th, which is a Sunday this year, we will be down there to light a candle in his memory and visit the church that basically took us in their arms and comforted us when we were there last year. And also, unfortunately, meeting with the district attorney's office on Monday before heading home. It's an ongoing criminal case, and that's all I'm going to say about that. But that event last year is what really threw me very deeply into the knitting, and a big reason why I'm here doing this podcast. I had not been able to work since his death, and I retreated into knitting, which has always been my go-to for stress relief. So I said the podcasts, knitting, have been therapy for me. And one of the people that stood out in the podcast community for me, I guess it's just the timeliness of it, was Amy Florence of Stranded Podcast, where she was talking about dealing with depression, and how then she talked about knitting, and was doing these podcasts, and just Watching her over the past year made me feel like maybe that this would be good for me too. And so far it has been. Gives me a reason to, well, one of the drawbacks of recording on your phone is getting a phone call in the middle of it. So timing was pretty good. I think I was getting a little emotional there. Anyway, yeah, so this weekend is going to be a tough one, but there is a fantastic yarn shop down in Durango that I had frequented before on our many trips down there. Had attended a couple of the knitting, not group, it was just, they've just had a knitting meeting at the time that I happened to be there. And it's been a few years since I've stepped foot in that shop, so would love to go by and see what's new. Anyway, so we talked about the shops and talked about Durango, and oh yeah, the giveaway. So I had 13 people actually leave comments. So out of the 13 people, I just wrote down everybody's name and in the order that it showed up on my phone. It's interesting, on my phone and on my computer, the names show up in different orders. So I guess it doesn't really matter. I just assigned a number to everybody and then did the random number generator. And the number I came up with was 5. And number 5 is Donna Nevins from Georgia. So Donna, go ahead and take a look at the my Etsy shop or my Fibercrafty shop. I did want to mention those two shops too. Fibercrafty is a fairly new shopping platform that's devoted strictly to fiber-related products. Sorry. So I thought I would try out both platforms and see which one worked. Right now, actually, they're neck and neck. So whichever one you prefer, each shop has identical items in them. I am currently updating the shop. So if you've gone in and looked at the shop before and didn't really see anything that you liked, I'm going to be putting in some more items. I put in about 4 or 5 items yesterday. The ones that I put in was this DK weight medium green. It's called Meadow. And then I put in, this is on Golden Pond. I showed you before, I'm knitting my sweater out of this colorway in a single merino fingering weight. But this is also a DK weight. And like I said, repeatable. So if you want to do a sweater quantity, I can make more. But obviously the drawing is for one. I also added in this single ply lemon yellow and single ply lavender. And then this is a one-of-a-kind called Forget Me Not. This is one of my attempts at the charger colors, and I had some bleeding, so there's mostly dark blue, light blue, gold, and just a little bit of green in there. And then 2 items that I have not yet put in the shop that are going in the next couple of days is, this is another charger failure. I don't have a name for it yet, but I think I'm going to go call it Marina. And it hasn't been reskeined. I wasn't sure if I wanted to break up the colors, because if I make a longer skein like this one, you can see that the colors would be distributed a little bit differently, and so I'm not quite sure whether I'm going to reskein these or not. This is a new colorway that I was inspired by when I was at the Broadmoor. It's called Magpie, and these are the colors of the Magpie, at least the ones here in Colorado. So I have 3 skeins of this, but this is a colorway that is not yet in the shop that will be. And then I have another, excuse my disappearing, but this is another colorway. It's a darker version of this. So this is also a DK weight that I have not skeined up yet, and that will also be going in the shop. So shop around. I'm going to be, like I said, I'm going to be leaving town on Saturday morning. So probably will not get the yarn in the mail to you until I get back on Tuesday. So, but it will be coming to you as soon as I get back. So I will put the contact info in the description box below for you to send me an email and give me your mailing address so that I can get this off to you once you've decided. Let me see, is that it? I guess that is it. I feel like I've left something out. Nope, I guess I covered everything. So that's it for this week. And I said when I get back, I will have some video of the beautiful town of Durango and the yarn shop down there. I don't know the name of the yarn shop. I think it's just the Durango yarn shop. Anyway, have a wonderful week and happy knitting. Talk to you soon.